Welcome back, everyone, to Season 9, Week 7. You will be with Cole and Prion in a moment. Before that, you all have seen the match yesterday, potentially, between Trauma and Tremor and the incident with the bug, our decision, and the forfeit by Team Tremor. Regarding that, we have made a decision and a statement. But since not everyone is in our Discord server or on Twitter, we are giving you the necessary information here as well. Official statement by DBDLeague, subject disqualification of Team Tremor from Season 9. Dear participants and community members, during the recent match between Trauma and Tremor held at Larry's Memorial Institute with Ghostface, an unfortunate situation arose involving a known bug in the game. This bug, which allows the killer to prevent survivors from unhooking when standing too close to the hook, significantly impacted the trial by denying a crucial unhook for Team Trauma. We had previously informed all our players about this rare and inconsistent bug and advised them caution. Upon thorough investigation, which included consulting multiple members of the Rule Committee and reviewing evidence provided by Team Trauma, it was determined that Wispy, from Team Tremor, was responsible for triggering this bug. While we do not assess whether this was done intentionally or accidentally, we made our decision in favor of fairness. Consequently, a replay was mandated and responsible Team Tremor was penalized with a reduction of half of a hook stages instead of the standard 2.5 hook stages due to the bug's inconsistency and the hectic nature of the situation. Following this decision, Team Tremor chose to leave their DBDLeague voice chat and forfeit the match, ignoring a second deadline to rejoin. This behavior is unacceptable and against the code of conduct and rule set to which all teams have agreed, which state that teams must accept and adhere to referee decisions and continue playing. This incident marks an unprecedented challenge to our tournament's integrity, and we must respond decisively to maintain competitive fairness. We will not allow teams to pressure tournament organizers with the potential loss of content, potentially risking decisions leaning towards teams that are known for such negative behavior. Therefore, after very careful consideration, we are disqualifying Team Tremor from Season 9 with immediate effect. The players involved in the forfeit are suspended indefinitely. Playing in competitive Dead by Daylight is a privilege that comes with the responsibility to respect and uphold high standards. Our volunteers work tirelessly to organize these events, and we will not tolerate any actions that undermine their efforts or the integrity of the competition. For any further questions, you can reach out to us. Thank you for your understanding and your continued support, the DBDLeague team. And with that, we're going into the matches we have for today. Cole and Prion will be your casters. Thank you, guys. Take it away.
Yeah, I don't know if we decided who was doing intro here, but I guess
We
it's
didn't.
me. So we're going to be kicking it off with 0Practice versus Elysium. We are going to have Dredge, Unknown, and Spirit, and I know for a fact that Prion's a big fan of at least 2 of these killers.
Really not a big fan of Spirit myself, but as long as other people are playing in that trial, then it'll be fun to watch. But Dredge and Unknown, I do really like those 2 sets.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've been seeing throughout this event is that I know that a lot of the Russian teams, and 0Practice in particular, are a huge fan of these indoor sets, Dredge and Ghostface, so I'm sure that 0Practice are going to be very, very happy to get that Dredge set. It's going to be a very exciting matchup. Elysium, obviously one of the best teams in the world, should be very, very quality. Do you have any expectations for that one, Prion?
It's really hard to say, Cole, because it always shocks me that 0Practice, the team that's always rumored to not even calm when they play, is such a big fan of these extremely technical survivor sets that require perfect communication and timing, like the Ghostface and the Dredge.
That's actually, I did not know that. If that is true, that's actually insane. So after our Dredge set, we're going to move on to Unknown, which was Elysium's pick. And Unknown is a set that we've seen becoming actually very popular amongst a variety of teams throughout this event. Do we what are we looking forward to for that one?
These unknown sets, they always end up being a battle between the two killer players, Cole. And you're right that we're actually seeing kind of a proliferation of the unknown throughout the many teams in this tournament. Originally, it was really only Cynic and Eternal that were trying to pick the unknown on purpose. And we were seeing huge results from Nightlight and Ultra, respectively, on this killer. But usually, the other teams that they would be picking it into would get 4-outed on the unknown because it's such a unique killer to play, and it's very easy to bully if you know how to run the unknown as a survivor. So I'm excited to see more teams picking it up. This time it's going to be Elysium. Maybe we're going to be seeing Xeno on the unknown this time. I'm pretty excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm looking forward to on the unknown set is to what extent the killer players decide to set up their web of hallucinations around the map, and to what extent they will focus on getting their first chase done as quickly as possible. In the event that we do go to tiebreak, we will have a Spirit set, which will once again be returning to Wrecker's Yard after Unknown on that map. And Spirit, very interesting for me to see because I know that 0Practice is a team that typically does not want to play S tier killers. And I suppose Spirit is, of the 4 S tiers that we have, those tier 1 killers, Spirit is the one that is the most normal, I guess.
Yeah, Spirit, I would say, out of the strongest killers in the game, most resembles a regular killer match. Even if there are still a lot of different things going on there because of how strong she is. The chase is not usually actually in the hands of the survivor as you would think in Dead by Daylight. It's more about choosing the correct place to die, far away from the gens where you need to be. But there is still room for survivors to outplay a Spirit if they have the right setup. Everybody's going to be using a very quiet survivor, so there's, like I said, there's still a lot of room there for there to be some incredible chases if any of the survivors can really confuse the Spirit.
Absolutely. This is one of those really unpredictable sets. And one of the things that I will want to see for the Spirit set and also for the Dredge set, one of the things that we notice is the game fundamentally transforms based on how quickly is that 1v3 going to come in and what is the state of the survivors' health bars basically when they get there. If you have a situation where your first teammate dies and you've got multiple people injured, you're going to be in for a rough time. But if you can enter the 3v1 with 3 healthy players, decent gen spread, then you're going to be in a much better position because these sets can snowball so quickly.
Yeah, and with that, let's go back to talking about the Dredge set.
Mm-hmm.
For all of you guys at home that have, or maybe even you haven't seen a Dredge set before, you might think that the Dredge is a really weak killer, and that like he's probably gonna get bullied by the survivors like he does in public matches. But the Dredge here is played on Midwich Elementary School with serious perk restrictions on the survivors. He's gonna probably have Sloppy Butcher. He's gonna have the Malthinker's Skull so that Nightfall approaches extremely quickly when people are injured. And if you're watching at home, try to pinpoint the moment where the match turns into the Dredge's favor. Because in these DBDLeague Dredge sets, there's no going back after the survivors kind of lose control of who's injured and who's not, and the Dredge starts to move around the map extremely quickly. It's so exciting to watch, and if you can pinpoint that moment, I'm sure you'll learn something about competitive DBD.
Thing is, Prion, one of the things that I have found interesting about watching Tree Trick play Dredge is that he's been opting for an add-on combo, which is Boat Key and Automarian Writing, which is the add-ons that you would run for maximum locker mobility when you're not in Nightfall, which is something I don't think I've seen any of the other Dredge players favoring. You know, normally
right,
they
I don't
are
think I
trying
have
to.
seen that.
Yeah, they're normally trying to go for that. Oh, I'm gonna get my tags. I'm gonna get into Nightfall, and I'm gonna snowball off of just chain slugging people and grinding the survivors down so that they can never get, fully recovered. They're constantly getting tagged after their resets and so on. And especially with Ruin coming back into the meta for what seems like every killer, that play style becomes so much more punishing. But so Treatrick definitely having things in his back pocket when he's not in that situation.
All right, and here we are on the Midwich Elementary School, and you were half correct, Cole. He's got the Automarian writing, but no boat key here. He is actually going to be running the Malthinker Skull. It's a very standard build, and oh, he got jump scared by an Atom right there going into the locker, but he also finds Marcos here at this filler pallet. First chase now starting for Treatrick. He's waiting for his Remnant to come back, just kind of looping around this first pallet. This is a very quick find of a survivor, Cole.
Absolutely, and it's really unfortunate for the survivors of Elysium because typically in that first chase, you really want to be able to use these God pallets that you have on this map, which now Marcos will be running to. He will get this first God pallet drop, but not before getting that first off. He puts your tag, and now Nightfall is charging up. Treatrick will just leave him. And remember, you get charges of Nightfall just by using your power, so this teleport is making the Nightfall come sooner, and especially after that injury onto Marcos, who I believe... Oh no, it's not Chase, it is Pedro taking Chase now for his team.
Yeah, and you can already see the significant cooldown decrease on that green add-on for his power outside of Nightfall. He wouldn't have had it back there if he was using any other add-on. And so Chase now in the library on Pedro. He sets the Remnant near the pallet, teleports back to it, but Pedro calls it out. Nice play there from him. He's going to hold W to this next bad pallet. These library pallets aren't very strong, but he gets hit over the ledge there. Nice swing from Treatrick. Pedro's going to have to hold W out of the library.
Yeah, we're taking Chase in the library, but all we're reading is the other players, not any of the books. As Pedro will go down after the vault. It's honestly a very tragic first down, but the survivors are doubling a gen. It looks like they sort of anticipated that there would be a quick first down. They wanted to break that. Actually, we've got Christian also with a 75% gen. This could very well pop if Treatrick is not in time to pop it himself.
Yeah, and it might look like the survivors of Elysium have great gen pressure right now, but remember what I said before, these dredge sets can tip in the killer's favor any second. So these survivors need to be absolutely perfect in their chases, never giving out any free hits. And now that Nightfall is about to start, they need to be extremely careful in getting this unhooked.
And Christian did get it, so the pop kind of going to waste, although there will be eruption on this chemistry room gen for later chases. As now there will be, looks like possibly a 1-for-1 on the unhook, although Pedro not going to commit to the body block, so now it is Christian in chase. He does have a good pallet here, but he might not make it. No, he's going to die on the pallet. Eruption will trigger just above us. We will see Silhy running around for a little bit. But there's no teammate around to rescue Christian from that pallet, so he's going to go back onto the same courtyard hook that his teammate was on just prior. Nightfall is not ticking down, though, and Treatrick is not getting as much value from Nightfall as he would like, most of this being taken up by that 1-for-1 and rehooking. So the survivor's going to be feeling really good about this. We got Silhy taking chase now, pre-dropping this pallet. This is one of those pallets that's a little bit less unsafe compared to some of the other ones, but it will result in a tag on Silhy. Do keep an eye on the health states of Elysium survivors as a whole. You want to make sure that you do not have multiple injuries coming in, and so far, 1 injury, 1 unhook is a precarious situation. It can get worse. They need to get that reset onto Silhy quickly.
Yeah, and Treatrick here, he seems to be, I mean, he didn't go for the tunnel out there on Pedro. He instead went for the fresh hook, which was Christian, and now it seems like he's actually playing around Christian's hook. Is he looking for that unhooker, or is he going to just go for another fresh hook? I'm not quite sure here, but it looks like Christian is going to be going second pretty soon. No survivors from Elysium are coming to save him, and they must be pressuring those gens up top in the corners of the map. He's going to check the chemistry room, there's nobody there. Teleports back to the he doesn't want to go to that library locker because he knows it's locked. So now he's going to go back to the hook. A little bit of a sloppy save there from Elysium. Christian does go to second stage, and they get 1 gen for it. But that's going to be another injury onto Pedro. Christian now death hook and injured, and I think this is where Treatrick is going to try to clasp his, or kind of solidify his grasp on the game.
Unfortunately for him, Christian does still have this God palette, so Chase is going to be prolonged a little bit. He does drop the Remnant. We're trying for a mind game
He
here.
runs through the
Christian
Remnant.
will get it, yeah. So he is safe here for the time being. It's a little bit easier to play this as the Dredge when you have Nightfall, but Christian also, with any means, almost gets the palette reset. We also will see a teammate coming in for a body block. Now, you normally do not want to body block against Dredge so that he doesn't get that sloppy butcher mouth anchor value, but if you're trying to protect your teammate, that is the one situation where you would. And we're also seeing Trick using the teleport in Nightfall to try and cut the survivors off, but they do reposition correctly so that the body block can be secured. We are now at 1 gen left with 3 stages for Trick, and the tunnel out for Christian not quite coming in. We do have a reset on the Pedro, so Trick will looks like spot out the reset, trying to tag onto Pedro again. And even though, yes, the situation looks very dire for our killer player, we do have so many injured survivors. It is never too late for him to snowball here. This locker possibly saving this other reset. We got 2 survivors on Killer Instinct, both injured, both running away, and crucially, one of them is Christian. And the chase will be resuming onto him. He does have some pallets. Nightfall should be about to wear out. And at least fortunately for Christian, he has windows of opportunity. So even with the diminished visibility in Nightfall, he will at least be able to run to yellow.
Yep, Christian doing a great job of running to yellow here. He's got his lithe windows distortion build on, but Trick actually going to leave him and go back to a different blood trail. I think that's upstairs, or maybe is he still on Christian and he just got lost? Yeah, he's actually still on Christian here. So for all you aspiring killer players at home, in that situation, the play is to just slug everybody to build pressure until you can find Christian, which is your tunnel out. So great play there from Trick. He's kind of brought this game back from the brink now that he has a death with 1 generator still remaining. All survivors injured actually, and you can see that Malthinker's skull working. Nightfall has already come again, even though the survivors are resetting.
And this is where we have this interesting conversation about expectations, right? Because Dredge, in theory, is a killer that should be getting out, but it is so easy to make a mistake that will give the Dredge pressure. And we see here, before this whole chain of events started, Trick is sitting at 3 hook stages. He's got 1 gen left. His tunnel out looks like he's evaded him. And then now all of a sudden we're in a situation where, oh, we had 4 injuries, the tunnel out dies, we're still at 1 gen, and it looks like Elysium survivors could possibly not be able to pop that last gen. And we'll go from a situation where it looks so bad for the killer, and it then will look so bad for the survivors because any little mistake can snowball. And it's so hard to make a recovery now in the situation. You don't have the manpower needed to get those resets in and still do your gens, and the Dredge can feel like he's everywhere at once, especially once those God pallets are down.
Yeah, the moment you have more than 2 survivors injured and Nightfall is approaching, it is over in this Dredge set. Trick, he's capitalizing on his pressure so well. He's got Eruption down on these generators. The survivors of Elysium are completely unable to safely reset without the Dredge coming out of some locker somewhere. You can see that they're confused, they're looping with friends, and the game is now in Trick's hands.
And we should expect that. It's just such a tragic game sometimes with Dredge, because you end up in a situation here where once the tunnel out is completed, most of the game revolves around slugging from that point on. You play hit and run, you try and keep every survivor at least injured, you go for your slugs, and you don't often hook until you've got 3 slugs. So Trick will be opting to second hook Pedro on this courtyard and look for these survivors that were resetting before. We don't know if Marcos and Silhi have met up. No, they have split up. So Marcos going to save Silhi, almost taking chase, but the eruption proc coming in onto this gen. Actually, it's like Trick kind of faked out Silhi there. He thought that he was going to go back to the unhook. He will, but not before downing Silhi. Marcos will stealth away a little bit as now Pedro is loosely being tracked by Trick, I believe. Although the locker's coming in, yes, we will have chase resuming onto Pedro. Possibly going to be the second tunnel out of sorts onto him. If he dies here, it should be virtually impossible for Elysium to pop another generator with only 2 survivors remaining. This whole time, they have had basically no time to work on either of the remaining generators, as all of their time has been spent in chase, or picking up their teammates, or resetting their teammates, or unhooking their teammates.
Yeah, and Tree Trick there, he misses a couple of Remnant teleports onto Pedro, but he's actually going to find Pedro once again, breaks out of this locker. He's going to give it another go around and see if he can get those eruption procs on those gens. He's waiting for the Remnant to come back. He sets it there at the window. Pedro, though, has held W over to this pallet, so going to be another Remnant play at this pallet. Nope, Pedro fakes it out again. He's going to go down. And oh, I guess there were not any eruptions on any generators there because we didn't get a damaged generator score event. But still, hey, he's only about 30% on this gen, Cole, and they are actually splitting. Pedro is going to die, so you can see what the survivors of Elysium are working towards here. They're splitting the generators, which means that whichever one of them gets found is going to trust that he can take Tree Trick on a very long chase while the other one finishes the last generator. Now, that will work if Tree Trick gets tunnel vision on any one survivor, but I think he's smarter than that. I think he knows what the survivors of Elysium are planning.
You do have the option here to simply go to each gen, drop an eruption on it, and then know that, okay, if I get into my next chase, there's no good resources left on the map, so the chase should be quick, and then I will know for a fact that when I get that down, I'll be able to go to those erupted gens and make sure it doesn't pop. Now, Marcos being the one who is in chase is not ideal for Tree Trick. He is the healthy survivor, and Silhe having the opportunity to get his gen back to like 67% it looked like, but now he's going to get pushed off of it. At this point, I feel like the survivors should be playing around this particular gen. It's probably the only shot you have at completing that last gen, and that would be big. Because of the fact that Dredge has usually result in a 4K1 or a 4K2, simply completing all gens, even if you don't get outs,
nice looping here from Silhe. He was able to win the first Remnant Mine game, and he's actually forcing Tree Trick to leave. Marcos actually isn't on that generator. He's on a different one. And Tree Trick is going to go back and check the one that Silhe was working originally. The pressure is actually mounting on these two generators, Cole. He's going to now teleport right back to the generator that Marcos was working, and now I would say that they're actually equally progressed. If these two survivors can continue to dance around the dredge and not take it down, they might actually be able to finish this.
Oh yeah, and crucially, that gen that Marcos was just working on is not really close to a locker. If it was a gen inside one of the classrooms, it would be much more vulnerable to these Nightfall teleports, but it isn't. So every time you work on that gen, you have pretty good eyes that the dredge is approaching you, even with that undetectable. Remember, that killer is extremely loud. Even when you don't have eyes on him, even when you don't have a terror radius, you can just hear this whole whooshing sound coming from a mile away. Marcus now taking a tag, does have a god window to play here, but Tree Trick has to be very careful to make sure that one of these gens is not about to pop. He does have a fairly unsafe pallet to play here, trying to cut off Marcos from making it to the window, will successfully do that, and now this is the last opportunity that the survivors of Elysium have had. Oh, there
he's got the aura from the eruption. I think that's just Silhe is now accepting his fate. It was a really good try from the survivors of Elysium, but that was a really difficult spot to play for Marcos. He tried to fake out the remnant and go for the window instead of the pallet, but Tree Trick knew what was going to happen there ahead of time. He's a very experienced dredge player, and that is going to be him securing a 4K1 for 0Practice.
Yeah, very, very typical dredge result. I think one of the unfortunate things about dredge sets is the fact that so many of them end the same way, off the same kind of gameplay, can sometimes betray how cleanly the first part of the game went for either side. I feel like Elysium survivors played the early part of this game very, very well, and it's not going to be reflected in the result that we had. So that now for their killer player trying to reach a 4K2, it's very doable. I feel like Dredge is one of the sets that if you have to play for a 4K2, would be one of the ones you'd want to do it on. But at the same time, playing for a 4K1 tie isn't that bad either. Especially if it's the killer set that your opponent picked. Tying what your opponent wanted is certainly no shame.
Yeah, this killer and the set can be extremely explosive. We have seen actually much larger killer results than 4K1 before, 4K2s, and even 4K3s, where survivor communication just breaks down in Nightfall, or A tunnel out is secured even earlier than we saw at this game. So there's going to be a lot of room for the killers from Elysium to go for this win condition.
Absolutely. And remember, the Survivor players from 0Practice, they love this set. They love indoor sets. This is something that they have probably practiced more than anything. And this is why it's a really interesting matchup to see, because I do feel like when we're considering the Survivor teams that we have in this tournament and their team play, their coordination, their communication, I feel like Elysium is the gold standard in a lot of regards. Whenever we see sets where the Survivor teams are just always on point for the body block with exactly when they need it, for the pallet save exactly when they need it, I think Elysium is the team that does this better than anyone. And so seeing them compete against the indoor map specialist has been very, very nice.
Yeah, so with that, we're actually, you know what, Cole and I today are actually going to be talking through the breaks. We're trying something new. So what do you think we're going to be seeing coming out from, I'm actually not sure if it's going to be Xeno or somebody else, but the Dredge add-ons. What do you think, Cole?
It should be Xeno. I think Xeno would probably be going for standard. I would assume Malthinker Skull and Broken Doll. I have not actually checked myself what build has been submitted. Keep in mind, as we've been doing throughout this tournament, all of the teams are submitting their builds in advance, so we know what they're going to do. I just haven't looked at it before today's matches, but you know, Broken Doll Malthinker Skull is fairly standard. I don't see Xeno as the kind of player who would want to absolutely cook on Dredge. We mainly see him cook on Hillbilly, I think, throughout this event. So it would not be entirely without precedent, but I don't feel like Dredge is one of those killers that he would do that on.
Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of variation in the Dredge builds throughout this tournament. Recently, though, we have only been seeing this exact build of perks, which is Corrupt, Sloppy, Pop, and Eruption, although other Dredges throughout the beginning of the tournament were running Totems. So it's possible that we could see that from Xeno, maybe a little bit of Ruin, Undying, Pentimento. That's been really popular on some killers, but I think, personally, I think the Dredge just synergizes so much better with the gen-kicking perks, especially with the tempo of how it plays on Midwich.
Oh yeah. So I want to point out throughout this tournament, we've been seeing a really meteoric rise in the popularity of hex-based builds, especially those revolving around Ruin with, you know, Undying, Pentimento when it's allowed, and sometimes instead of Pentimento, you will see Pop or Eruption as like a backup, like the old, you know, Ruin Pop meta that we used to have. But one of the reasons that we've had this is because of the rule changes that removed pain resonance from a significant portion of the killer base. Previously, we were only banning that perk on tier 1 killers. Now it's also banned on tier 2 and tier 3 killers, and on top of that, on Dredge specifically. Now, I'm not entirely sure why it was removed from tier 2 and tier 3 killers, but I know for Dredge, one of the things that we were seeing before that was that Dredge players were not bringing pain resonance sometimes anyway because of how wonky the hook placements can be on Midwich, and the RNG element of the pain res hooks was even more severe on this map. So Dredge players not wanting to bring it sometimes for that reason, we ended up simply removing it from the equation so that you can't gamble on getting good pain res hooks. But so the choice to bring Pop and Eruption, and sometimes even Surge, was something that Dredge players have been going for a long time now. So this is a little bit of a comfort build, and the decision to opt into Ruin and Undying, I think, was more of a reaction to, well, it's working on other killers, maybe it'll work on Dredge, but I don't think it's really going to catch on as much.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jolt/Surge there, which is really interesting because Midwich is probably one of the only maps where it's even viable. And I think probably the only reason why it's not being seen here is because combined with Eruption, which is already it's already 2 instances of generator regression for the purpose of the anti-3-gen mechanic. If you were to add Jolt or Surge in there, you would just be absolutely speed running the entity spikes on the gens.
Oh yeah, And I guess another thing that really matters towards the idea of pop is that one of the things that can really gate a killer's use of pop is, do you have the map mobility to take advantage of it? And Dredge absolutely does, because of the map being so small, because of the mobility of the teleport. It's not like you got a killer like, I don't know, Artist or Doctor, where you have to manually walk to the gen you want to pressure, and sometimes you don't have the time to do that. Sometimes you absolutely want to just hold the area that you have. Dredge does not have that problem.
Yeah, and we see more and more with these dredge sets. Once we get into that 3v1, you see the dredge actually not committing to chases and instead using his teleports to fake out the survivors and confuse their comms, where he'll teleport on somebody and then wait for the cooldown to come back and then just immediately leave them and go back to the person that he knows is doing a generator. That puts so much pressure on the communication of the survivors, and if they're even a second late, then it can result in a down and a snowball for the dredge.
Oh yeah. Now, one thing I want to point out here, as looks like we are loading into game, is that it is not Xeno playing Dredge. We have Pedro on the Dredge instead, and this could be a really big problem for Elysium if their main killer player is not present today. Now, Elysium, keep in mind, we are very close to the end of this round robin. Elysium is basically already guaranteed to make it into playoffs, but for 0Practice, an upset win against Elysium would go a long way towards trying to secure a spot in that top 4, which will get you into playoffs.
Very interesting. We'll have to see how Pedro's dredge is. I don't think I've ever seen this before, but his win condition here is going to be that 4K2, high condition 4K1, and here we are now loading into the Midwich Elementary School to see if the survivors of 0Practice have done their homework to turn it into the teacher. What do you think, Cole?
Oh, I think we've got a very interesting build here. I don't know if this was a Pedro cook or if this was a Xeno cook, but we've got Ruin Penti with Sloppy and Nurses, and the fact that we can have, you know, I think Nurses is a weird choice on this map, or on this killer rather, because we do have a good concept for it, but a lot of times it feels like the way that the Dredge is finding resets is via the killer instinct that you get in Nightfall. But certainly Nurses being able to spot out that reset will give him a lot of pressure in, that hit. GoodCon will be making it to a God Palette, but not dropping it.
Very interesting that he didn't drop that God Palette.
Yeah, I guess he didn't feel like he needed it in his chase immediately. He does appear to have gotten an okay amount of distance. Pedro will have to stop to break his breakable wall, and he will leave chase. Actually, no, we do hear GoodCon through this side of the wall, so Pedro's going to leave his remnant at one door and enter the other, which is an unusual way of using this anti-loop, but GoodCon will be playing this God window. He does now have a pallet to go to. He goes back to the God pallet, will not get hit through it, drops the pallet, gets the stun. This is one God pallet down, but this first chase is being prolonged, so Pedro is going to just leave and try and find a different survivor pressure. Looks like he's going to the upstairs. He does push Kirzep off the gen, and now this is where Ruin will help him out, but one gen has been completed already.
It was extremely risky pathing from GoodCon to that God pallet, but it bought so much time for his team because it worked out.
Absolutely. Kirzep now making it to this other God palette. This is both God palettes being dropped, but Kirzep has some pretty good distance. He's running to what I believe could be a dead zone classroom. It is not. He does have one of the longer loops, and he has found the other God window, but Pedro sees the reset on Nurse's Calling. That is the value of this perk. There will almost surely have to be a body block here, which will now allow the Nightfall to really build up.
Yeah, and I think these body blocks here are just going to work in Pedro's favor with this build, but he actually just reaches around Sayora. Maybe with the Bloodlust there, another gen is going to pop in the distance, but these hooks mean a little bit less for Pedro because he's got no Pop Goes the Weasel pull. He's just going to be relying on the Ruin Pentimento, and if the survivors of 0Practice can keep this pressure up, they can almost just ignore this Ruin. As long as they have 4 survivors alive, the Ruin is going to be significantly less of a problem.
Yeah, the more I think about this build, it really seems like a build that's designed to be as oppressive as possible in that 3v1. You never have to take the time to regress those last 3 gens. You can always find the reset. And that appears to be what the build is going for, but it's going to be difficult if you're not able to get to that 3v1 in time. The survivors also knowing, hey, like, we just have to pop gens. We don't have to get outs. Is going to really help them out. Pedro successfully body blocking Shizy from this hook. One of the things that's true about Midwich is if you hook someone in certain spots, the hallways can be very narrow and very body blockable. Pedro successfully holding this off, but there is a staircase here, so a survivor coming from upstairs might be able to get this. GoodCon will hit second, so the survivors are just cranking gens this whole time.
Yeah, survivors of 0Practice here are confident in their gen pressure. They're just going to let GoodCon go to second stage. He's going to have a whole nother minute, and that's going to be Shizy being left there at the filler pallet. Pedro goes back to the basement to hopefully interrupt this unhook, but nobody's coming because the survivors are just cranking gens. Sayora is like 60% on a gen right now, and there's also one being split by Shizy on the Jake. I think the survivors of 0Practice have a really good grasp on this game right now. There's a lot of gen pressure. This is eventually going to be a 1-for-1, but there's only going to be 2 survivors injured from this. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get this tunnel out in time, Cole.
Well, he's definitely not going to be able to make it in time for the win con, as that 4th generator has been completed. That means we will get, at a minimum, a tie for 0Practice. The chase continuing on to GoodCon, trying to get the tunnel out. But I do want to impress upon everyone, just like we had in the previous game, you can be in a very dire situation as the Dredge and still be a moment away from a possible snowball. It felt like Treatrick was in a similarly rough situation in the previous game, and it still ended up being a 4K1. It is entirely possible for Pedro to do as well, but we have 2 survivors doubling a gen in distance. Pedro looks like he is going to be able to interrupt them right away and try to get ruin value, but not in time to interrupt them. They will just complete this gen in his face and secure the win for 0Practice. Just a split second off from that interrupt. So whatever happens here is a finale.
Yeah, I think even if he does manage to interrupt that gen right there, there was no way he was going to be able to defend it with only ruin. There's no Pop Goes the Weasel to take a chunk out of the generator. There's no Pain Resonance to take a chunk out of the progress, and yeah, the ruin would have just been regressing it at a snail's pace, and they would have just been able to come right back to it and finish it anytime they wanted. Not to mention that they probably were splitting other generators in the distance. The survivors of 0Practice this game were so confident in their gen pressure, they were able to leverage that over Pedro while he was camping GoodCon on the hook. GoodCon is finally going to die now, but it took far too long for it.
Strangely enough, that was one of the situations where Surge would have actually saved the game for him.
Actually, no, because the guy got grabbed off the gen, Cole. There would have been no Surge.
Unlucky. Eruption would have done it if they had other gen. Yeah, you're
Eruption.
right. Also, I would like to point out, have you ever seen those, like, Twitter posts that's just a zoomed-in screenshot of, like, 4 slug survivors, and it's like, guess the killer?
Guess the killer, yeah. It's not actually any particular killer, it's just me. That's me playing killer.
Well, if it's common, it feels like it's always Dredge. I feel like this is an inevitability of Dredge, such as you will end up at one point, at both sides, seeing 2, 3 survivors just crawling on the ground, getting acquainted with the floor, you know. Maybe they had a little bit too much to drink the night before, you never know, but that is something that just happens in these Dredge sets. So we will be ending up with a 4K0 for Pedro. Not quite enough to secure a tie or a win for Elysium, so 0Practice will be taking that first set. So, once again, showing us why they like this Dredge pick so much, but we will be coming back into an unknown set. Elysium's pick, as Pedro gives the entire audience motion sickness in his locker, showing off some of those locker mechanics. But moving into our unknown set, do we think that if Xeno doesn't show up for this one as well, will we be seeing Pedro again on the killer?
I would certainly hope that we see Xeno, because, I mean, nothing against Pedro. It's just I've never seen him really play killer for Elysium before, and I know from before that Xeno is the one that likes the unknown on this team.
Oh yeah. It's very possible that something came up and Xeno wasn't able to make it, and they made these picks and these builds with him in mind, but I do think one point in Pedro's favor is that Unknown Wrecker's Yard is one of those picks that you can see on ladder. We know that Pedro is a really, really solid ladder player, often number 1. So it's a really good chance that he at least has a lot of experience playing this killer mechanically and on this map. So there is that, you know, silver lining, if that is the case we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and regardless of who is going to be playing the Unknown for Elysium, we still know that the survivors of Elysium picked this set on purpose, meaning that they are going to be very experienced in running an Unknown. Like, I can't stress enough how fun and interactive the chase is with the Unknown. The camera work that you do to stare him down, as well as the the different pathing that you have to take when he's going to shoot his UVX, and it's looking like we're gonna have Christian on the killer.
Now that's something I have never seen before, so I'm very, very curious to see this. We know that in a lot of cases, survivors who play only Survivor competitively still will play a lot of killer in like public games and have killers that they really enjoy playing. So if Christian is a secret Unknown enthusiast, it would be the first I've heard of it, but I'm very excited to see what he's going to pull out.
Yeah, and the Unknown add-ons are going to be interesting to see here as well, because we've been seeing a lot of variety recently. Every Unknown likes to take the brown add-on, the blurry photo, because it's just a pure upside. It's simple, it's effective, it gives them more mobility when they come out of the teleport so they can use it at loops, but it's the second one that's been variable in this season. So we've seen, sometimes we see the footprint cast, which increases the frequency of the hallucinations coming out. Sometimes we see the slashed backpack, which allows the killer player to choose exactly where their hallucinations go. And even yesterday we saw a killer instinct granting add-on from Wispy on the Unknown, which I'd never seen before. Honestly, I thought that was a mistake when I saw it in his build, but it must have done something. The Unknown has a really good spread of add-ons. Some of them are banned, like the broken add-on, but he's still got a lot of good ones that he can use for different effects.
So I am actually being told in chat, first of all, shame to me for being new gen, I guess, because as it turns out, Christian rather, used to play killer in comp quite a bit. And for the sake of his honor, I'm not going to mention which killers he played, but, you know, it remains to be seen if Unknown is, you know, one of those things he can add to his roster, as we have...
a P100 Skull Merchant?
You know, I'm not going to speculate about what things comp players may be doing in their free time. That is not for me to judge, me especially. Apparently there was at least one match in Outrun the Fog where he played Skull Merchant, so...
Wait, I was joking, really?
Yeah, you know, we do a little trolling.
Okay. I don't know, I guess the people need to know these things. When you're choosing a player to root for, you need to do a little background check to make sure they're not a Skull Merchant player.
Yeah, imagine that being put in the looking for team channels. Yeah, we're gonna run a background check on you. We're gonna VOD review every game you ever played before we will take you in. Although, as it turns out, the team that got Skull Merchanted was holding Elysium hostage with a 3-gen for 45 minutes. So, you know, fair enough. I don't think anyone would hold that against Kexo. We should have no shame there. But we do have this lobby being set up, prepared for Kexo to pull out that Unknown against 0Practice. Now, I do think that if this trend holds, then it will be the build that Xeno picked for Kexo. So if we do have one of those signature Xeno cooks, like we had in the previous game, that might make it a little bit disorienting to play. Unless, of course, the survivors have been practicing against that build from Xeno. So maybe they'll have some idea of what it should be like.
Yeah, and the first chase is going to mean a lot here, Cole. Especially 0Practice. They're coming in with the momentum in this game. They're going into the set that they didn't pick. So the first chase is going to mean so much here. If you can have a good run against the Unknown, that is going to really carry your survivors into the mid game, into the end game. The Unknown, like we've mentioned before, it's very easy to bully him. You can get 2-tapped if you make a mistake, but if you are able to get a good run on the Unknown, he might just not come back from a bad first chase.
Oh yeah, and I feel like one of the things that makes Unknown sets so skill expressive is that you do have this aspect of your UVX accuracy, but also the awareness from both players about where those hallucinations are positioned, and when the Unknown can rapidly switch to it and cut you off, or just have those hallucinations as a map mobility tool. Sometimes it almost feels like a discount mint rag hag trap that he can just be wherever you are always, and it's one of the reasons that you have to take the time to disarm them. Ooh, okay, so we're going to be seeing Corrupt Ruin Penty and Forced Hesitation. So Ruin Penty is a fairly standard pick for this map, for this killer in particular. The fact that even if you don't have Penty, the threat of that perk is enough to dissuade teams from breaking your Ruin. But Forced Hesitation is a perk that makes 1-for-1 super punishing, because once you get the unhook, the survivor that you just unhooked is so slow they do not get distance anywhere, as Christian will catch eyes on Fiora but will not commit to the chase and will instead be pushing Kirzep off of the Shack generator.
Yep, first weekend there, lands onto Kirzep. He's got about a quarter of it taken off now. Now Christian's going to be going for this follow-up shot. Balanced landing off of the hill. This is going to be a tough shot to hit. He just barely misses as Kirzep takes away the weekend, but I think he's close enough to get an M1 here on the Shack pallet. Nope, not quite. He's just going to break that Shack pallet. And yeah, Unknown is not really the best at playing those close pallets with the M1. So Kirzep escapes for now with full health.
Yeah, it's interesting to see sometimes how Unknown players play out the early game, if they want to go for tunnel out from the beginning, or rather just focus on that first chase, or if they want to go around the map, be multiple places to have their hallucination web set up. And I think the slashed backpack does sort of play into the hallucinations a bit. As good con now taking chase, we do have one generator popping. It looks like Christian has already identified this side of the map is where he's got a pretty good gen spread and where he wants to defend. He does not seem interested in committing to any chases away from those gens. Well, I stand corrected. It looks like Kirzep will be changing his mind.
Kirzep's weekend almost removed here. Shot is going to come out from Christian. Oh, and just a frame perfect cleanse of the weekend there, as it's going to reapply, but no damage there for Christian. That's really unfortunate. Oh, nice lingering hitbox there. Kirzep is going to take damage from that UVX blast. Teleport comes in from Christian, and he is just going to walk down Kirzep with the M1. So nice chase there from Christian. He hit his UVX shots, and that's going to be a crucial first down for him. Sheezy here, hovering maybe with a firecracker, but Kirzep is going to go up on the hook. It's going to be 2 gens done for the survivors of 0Practice, so good start for them. It's good that Christian was able to get something going, but a fast unhook here for 0Practice. Oh, doesn't get that blast zone on the window corner there, but it looks like he's going to be going for a tunnel out on Kirzep, Cole.
I think he was trying to shoot it through the window to bounce off the gen, but it collides with the window instead. Doesn't get that, but he does get a follow-up M1 onto Kirzep, who is now being dragged deeper into this gen spread that we had before. Now, if they have not popped Shack, they have not. So there is still a generated 3 gen loosely around this hook and this hill, which the Ruin is going to make very punishing. They were able to break one of the generators on this side of the map right before that first hook came in, which will help them out. At least they do not have to play around a 4-gen, but still, it's going to be very difficult to actually get Kirzep out of the situation. Christian has the leverage to basically sit on this hill and shoot UVX at actually... Yeah, he shoots UVX at these different gens. The Shack gen in a weird turn of events is the safe one here, because you can't quite get a UVX through that. So you have to manually push drivers off of this.
You're gonna get the weekend on a Sayora there and teleport straight back to the hook. This is where Forced Hesitation is gonna come into play, Cole.
Absolutely. Now, I believe Kirzep does have balanced landing, which will be the only thing that saves his life here. as he would be so slow otherwise, and because Kexo had... Oh,
And he doesn't make the pallet.
Yeah, I think he was trying to die on the pallet, and that's why he went in a little bit, but not quite able to make it. I'd like to apologize for the confusion on the names. Christian is the player formerly known as Kexo, so a force of habit on that. But now also, we have GridCon getting hooked on that same hill, so now we're in the same situation we were in before, except this time one survivor is dead.
It's just such a devastating mistake from 0Practice going down near this hill. That generator was 80 to 90% progressed, and Christian was able to get that second hook onto Kirzep right next to the generator. He's been regressing with Ruin all this time, and now he has another fresh hook next to it. That is so much time lost for 0Practice.
And look at this web of hallucinations that he has around this hill. Even if you were to try and sneak up on him without Christian seeing you, which is going to be very difficult because he has this vantage point, and you disarm one hallucination, there's another one nearby. And on top of that, now that they know about force hesitation, and their balanced landing player is dead, getting off this hill, you are going to be hit by the 20% slow of force hesitation, and then the stagger. You may as well just not even try to save the survivor. You are not going to be able to do this because unless you've got, I don't know, babysitter possibly, they're just going to get two tapped off of the unhook.
Yeah, and we see Sayora kind of hovering to see if this unhook can happen. It's really not going to, though, as Christian just continues to stand on the hill, and he's actually going to leave now because GoodCon has gone to second stage. Sheezy in the distance is working the one generator that's not a part of the 3-gen. He's going to skip that UVX ball off the top of the dumpster, not going to land though, mind gaming this dumpster pallet, and I think Christian knows here that Sheezy is the one working on the generator. He's not going to be going to save anytime soon. Sayora is going to eat a weakened. This could be really bad, Cole, as a teleport is going to come in. Oh, just barely dodges that close range UVX blast. That would have been a 2-tap if it landed. Still, it's going to be a trade at the hook. This is going to be another forced hesitation moment. GoodCon now off the hook. He had sprint burst, but now that it's gone, he is going to be so slow.
He's got bust, but it's not a particularly good bust, and the mind game and the swing through it, this will be down onto GoodCon, and now with Sayora also being plugged, and that crow being spotted in the distance, now Christian will have exact eyes on where the last remaining survivor is, and Sheezy's going to have to stay alive long enough to pick up his teammates, but good luck with that. There are not too many good pallets floating around, and there are hallucinations all around. Sheezy looks like he got a little bit disoriented about where Christian was. It's mind-gamed around Shaq, tagged through the pallet, will not drop it, and now, unfortunately, he's running away from where his slug teammates are. Will be enough to cleanse the weakened state from himself, but he needs to be able to somehow get over to his teammates, but he's getting pushed further and further away from them.
Yeah, just one more M1 here for Christian, and he will secure a 4K1 for Elysium. So Sheezy there gets a little bit confused and runs back into the unknown. That is going to be the down for Christian, and really a great performance here from him. Very impressed with his unknown. He really capitalized on the mistakes of 0Practice and secured a nice 4K1 for Elysium. Good comeback for them in the second set.
Yeah, we weren't really sure what to expect, but it does seem like Christian knew exactly what he was doing. I don't know if they were preparing to play Christian Unknown. I would assume they would still have wanted to run Xeno, but definitely shows that he was ready for this. And it's going to be... I think we've seen some 4K2s before on Unknown, but those 4K2s involved some absolute tragedies in the early game. I believe camping a hook on top of a Penamento totem was involved.
Yeah,
so
we've even seen 4K3s, and I think I remember that game. It was like a ultra 100% accuracy UVX blast, free download, no virus. That was the kind of game it was.
Aha, ultra American sniper, I guess. But so for the killer for 0Practice, Tree Trick coming in with a 4K2 win con is going to be rough, doable but rough. But unfortunately, we have seen repeatedly from Elysium survivors that when the unknown matches occur for them, They play so well around each other to try and prevent those downs. They are dying on pallets. They are getting the body blocks when they need. And remember, body blocks are not easy to accomplish against Unknown. One of the reasons why his camping is so strong is that you can use the UVX to basically get a tentative health state on a survivor off of the unhook without giving them the speed boost from triggering the base kit BT, and then they're so close to being a 2-tap. And on top of that, one of the things that we can see, if you can get a hill hook, Unknown basically functions like a great value brand Huntress, where you can camp the survivor, throw UVX at people from range, and make it so difficult for them to go for that hook without being a 1-for-1.
I mean, in some situations, the Huntress is just a Walmart brand Unknown. I mean, sorry for you Europeans, great value Unknown, because the Unknown can actually launch the UVX over the structures and have it land downwards onto a gen, whereas the Huntress needs direct line of sight to do everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to figure out what is the name of the no-name or bargain brand in Europe, because that's what great value Walmart, that's what means to us Americans. So
Yep.
there's some context that might help here. I'm being told Lidl.
Or is it? It's in the UK. It's Tesco, isn't it?
I'm a level with you, Chief. I've never been to the UK.
I mean, neither have I. I just see a lot of Tesco memes from British people online.
Okay, so we'll workshop this. It could be Tesco brand Huntress. It could be Lidl brand Huntress. If any of these ring a bell, please let us know in the Twitch chat.
Okay, so 0Practice is going to be on the Unknown next, and I think we can assume this is going to be Tree Trick. It's not going to be his first time playing the Unknown in Season 9, but I'm assuming that we're going to see a very similar build with the Ruin and Pentimento, but the third perk seems to be variable. Some Unknowns are taking Undying, some Unknowns are taking Forced Hesitation. I've even seen some Unknowns foregoing totems altogether. Yesterday we even saw Agitation with Eruption and no totems at all. So there seems to be a lot of variability here. Tree Trick, though, he's going to have to meet a win condition of 4k2. So it's going to be tough. He's going to have to be very accurate with his UVX blasts.
Yeah, I think he's also just gonna have to bank on some survivor mistakes. You really want to try and catch a survivor off guard. If agitation does make some sense on this map, because one of the things that can really go south for survivors is if you can drag someone into basement, ideally your first down, that can be very difficult to defend. Although, in a weird way, Unknown is almost not wanting to basement hook, because you have the threat of getting a UVX blast off of unhook normally, but if the survivor is hooked in basement and you're not directly face camping them, you don't actually have the angle to get that UVX, and your punish for those saves is not as good as it could be.
And now that you mention it, we have seen really not very much basement play from the Unknown at all. Even though he is played on Wrecker's Yard, I can't recall the last time I saw an Unknown like take a lot of hooks in the basement when they had the opportunity. They seem to be preferring to hook near their totems or on a hill instead.
Here's a question that you probably know the answer to. I know that there is some internal logic that will prevent hallucinations from spawning within a certain range of some things. Now, if behavior is consistent in how killer powers work, like we know, for example, that like Dredge and Singularity can have difficulties with how their teleport powers work around unhooks. So I would assume that that Unknown has some mechanic that prevents his hallucinations from spawning too close to a hook, or possibly too close to basement. Because we've seen Unknowns playing around the shack gen, and it feels like the hallucinations are giving the shack a respectful distance, like it has a restraining order against them or something.
Yes, so the Unknown has different buffer distances for the hallucinations spawning depending on what object we're talking about. If it's a hook, I believe it's 15 meters. As we saw in the last game, Christian was able to place a hallucination right over by the bus when he had that hill hook, but he wasn't able to place one on the hill. For the generators, it's a little bit smaller. I believe it's between 5 and 10 meters from a generator. So you can place them a little bit closer to the generators than you can place to the hooks. And then the other buffer zone is actually, they can't be within, I think, 10 meters or maybe 15, I'm not sure. But the buffer zone is other hallucinations. So they don't want the unknown to have two right next to each other as well. So it's hooks, generators, and other hallucinations.
Yeah, and we've just gotten word from some of our match officials what the exact numbers are on those. So they have apparently very finely tuned exactly how far those hallucinations can spawn. And we have breaking news from the war room. Xeno is back. He will be playing Survivor in this upcoming game. So it appears that we will be seeing some more of him. Apparently he has woken up. So cue that one, the Shaq meme, you know, I sleep, I wake. Xeno has awoken.
Yeah, so let's go through these unknown stats that the match official has just so kindly posted for us. So hallucinations cannot spawn in proximity to the following objects: 1.75 meters of a generator or pallet, 2.15 meters of an empty hook, 3 meters of the hatch or exit gate, 12 meters of a hooked survivor, and 14 meters of other hallucinations. So the big ones there is the hooked survivors and the other hallucinations. So the strategy is that if you do hook a survivor near an existing hallucination, it will be destroyed automatically. So if you have another hallucination spawning, you'll want to move just to 12.1 meters away and place it there, as we saw Christian do in the last game. So just a little bit of unknown strategy for all of you guys.
Yeah, I wonder how many people are actually going to just memorize those numbers. I mean, surely, like, we know for a fact that there is at least one person in the world who's willing to write 200 pages on the clown. So surely there's someone out there who can give us a solid 300 about unknown, and I expect no less than 3 pages each on each of those numbers. Someone go do it.
The unknown is a very complicated killer. Some would say a lot more complicated than Mr. Kenneth with his bottles. But we're going to be going into the second game now. 0Practice on the unknown and Tree Trick. He really has a tough win condition here. This first chase is going to matter so much, Cole, especially with the accuracy of the UVX blasts. Is it going to be there? Is it not going to be there? And what build is he going to be running? Will Xeno change the trajectory of this game now that he has finally awoken?
I think the crucial difference will be, has someone DM'd him? Because if I've seen anything in my time watching comp, it's that if the moment you DM Xeno, you have lost the match.
Alright, so Tree Trick here. He finds a quick first chase onto Christian. He's going to skip that UVX off the top of the truck, and it's not going to land. Christian now in chase at this truck. Another UVX going to come out. No, that's too close to the environment. Christian's able to flare his pathing out and dodge the blast zone. He's going to pre-drop the pallet, and Tree Trick here, he needs to zone Christian over to the smaller side of the loop if he's going to land this UVX. Goes for the shot there. He is going to get the weekend onto Christian. Goes for a swing. It's not going to land. Christian takes this distance back to the other filler pallet. This loop is a lot stronger against the unknown. He doesn't have a lot of time to go for this shot, and he waits too long. Christian is able to remove that weekend. Actually runs back into Tree Trick though, so that's going to be the first M1. He's going to have a couple seconds to go for a shot here, but Christian expertly breaks line of sight and removes the weekend once again.
Oh yeah, and he's going to be able to make whatever he wants, so Tree Trick will be breaking chase. Do keep in mind, in that first chase, one totem was broken. It was, of course, guaranteed to be the Undying totem. So Tree Trick will have that possible Pentimento in his back pocket. The Hallucination Teleport comes in. Good awareness on Christian to move away from it at the last second, but
oh no,
nothing,
oh
and
no,
we've got a beamer save. Oof. Alright, well, that's going to be really unlucky, as now also Tree Trick is going to have his Hallucination Teleport on cooldown, and we're still at Shaq now. Shaq pallet has not been used. Christian will go ahead and flare away from Shaq and try to make a different pallet. He is sort of loosely trying to run into the unknown just enough to make the UVX blast miss, but also not so much that he can't make the powder window after. He does narrowly avoid the outer range of that UVX blast and still make another pallet. He will get to Shaq in time, and this is just a clinic on how to run Unknown.
Yeah, this is disaster for Tree Trick there on the Shack pallet. The blast zone not landing. 2 generators done. Christian still with the balanced landing as well. He's doing so well running this Unknown, and he's going to make it down to the bottom side of the map now. He has a pallet gem, going to pre-drop it. Another weakened shot might come out here in a second. He flares away from the tile and dodges the blast zone again. Look at this pathing, you guys. If you don't like playing against the Unknown, what a dodge there from Christian. Really great fake. He is just putting on a clinic here, Cole. If you don't like playing against the Unknown, what a body block from Pedro. Right when I try to say some analysis, every time the survivors of Elysium come up with an incredible play that has to interrupt me.
You know, whatever happens from this match, I think the one important takeaway is going to be do not let any Elysium survivor pick Unknown on ladder. Straight up, just don't. But we do have at this point 3 injured survivors. There is an opportunity to try and get a snowball off of this if you're able to find a reset. But unfortunately for Tree Trick, he finds Silky. He finds the 1 healthy survivor. We do have some resets coming in. Zeno gets reset. Now that was a very clean bounce off the tire, so the UVX will weaken Silky, but Silky is able to run out in the open. And he's just running into Tree Trick, so yes, he's gonna take an M1 tag for this, but the hallucination is the weakened is cleansed, and crucially that means that once the M1 hit came in, he wasn't able to follow it up with a UVX shot for a 2-tap, as now, like, this killer is a little bit weaker if you are not yourself, well, weakened.
That's interesting choice of words, Cole, as another UVX shot is going to miss onto Pedro. His weakened is almost removed. Still 0 stages here for Tree Trick. The survivors of Elysium are really on their game today in this Unknown set. Another shot is going to miss onto Christian, who's now back to full health after that extremely long chase. Teleport going to come in over to where we saw the first chase of the game. He still hasn't kicked that pallet at the filler. That filler is deceptively strong against the Unknown because of the geometry of that truck. And Zeno on the Meg just going to pre-drop that pallet at the short wall jungle gym and run into the bottom part of the map past the cars. He still has another filler pallet here, but he's just gonna hold W over to this pallet gym. Another shot going to miss, and this is just, it's really starting to add up for Tree Trick. He needs to find something fast if he wants to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, but with all of these resets coming in and the win condition being what it is, Elysium survivors just have the opportunity now that whoever is being chased can essentially afford to always have a teammate nearby to take a body block and get them where they need to go, because you don't need more than 2 survivors banging out those generators in order to get your objective done. Remember, Tree Trick has to play for a 4K2. This gen and Shack is so close to being done, and there's no hooks to show for it. What do you even go for here? Like, do you really want to chase Christian again?
You have to. I mean, you have to just accept that Christian is going to be really good in chase, and, I mean, power yourself up so that you are going to be able to outplay him. It's not easy, but this is what you have to do when you play at this level in DBDLeague.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it just feels so bad to try and figure out who exactly you want to go for. We do see this whole web of hallucinations around the map, but it feels like no matter where you go, it's a losing play. None of the chases are the one you want to take. You have a relatively good gen spread here, but unfortunately the progress on them is so high, and
what a firecracker from Zeno there, right as the UVX shot was about to come out. I think that's going to give him time to remove the weakened as well. Oh, Zeno, he was actually in a bad spot there, but that was such a perfect firecracker, Cole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was going on here, but Zeno is definitely awake. As now also another totem being broken, the survivors did decide to go ahead and cleanse that ruin, so that will make the ability to pressure this Shack quite a bit easier for them. And I guess the decision is, well, yes, there's 2 possible Pentamentos for Tree Trick now, but it doesn't really matter. He's not going to, well, yeah, okay, so that is high condition being met for Elysium survivors, and they still have all 12 hook stages up. Now chase onto Silhey, but he has a really strong loop here. One of these God Rock loops, and he can maybe play around it with the UVX blast, and he does. That is a clean hit on it, but the stun coming in, and that also gives Silhey distance to the rest of the map. Another good loop here, but the UVX does get the 2-tap.
Yeah, and I got an interesting stat for you here, Cole. That was the first 2 instances of a UVX blast actually entering a survivor this game.
Well, that's just tragic.
So Silhey going to go down on that filler pallet. He teleports back, and is anybody here for a save? Yes, it wouldn't be Elysium if they weren't here for a save already. That's going to be Christian. Bolting through, dodges out on that UVX blast again. The window is blocked for him on the DL, and it seems like Trick is going to be slugging here. Pedro gets fully healed in the distance, goes for a very low percentage shot onto Christian on the bus. 2 weakened survivors here. Will he be able to land a shot onto one of them? No, Zeno removes his weaken. It looks like he's going to pick up Silhey as well. So Trick here loses out on that down, but I mean, you can't blame him. He needs to find some serious pressure here, and he's not going to be able to do that if he just instantly picks up every survivor.
Now, what is nice about these rock loops for Unknown is the fact that being able to obscure vision is normally in the advantage of the survivor, I think. But in this case, the Unknown wants to be able to make it so that survivors have even less time to look at him, so that because the UVX tower's cooldown is slightly longer than it takes to remove the weakened. So if you can find a loop where the survivor does not have line of sight on you very often, you can play around your UVX blast without them being able to cleanse it. And that almost happens here, but unfortunately, he finally gets it down, but they die on pallet. And there's 2, even 3 survivors hovering, so you can never pick. So it's so difficult to actually get a hook here. You just don't have an opportunity.
And what's happening here, Cole, is that when you're playing the Unknown, you only have about a 2-second window to actually shoot your shot before the survivor with good camera work is able to cleanse the weakened. And it's Trick here. He's waiting too long because the good movement of Elysium's survivors has been forcing him to miss in the past. So he's taking too much time to line it up, and that's allowing Elysium's survivor to just cleanse the weakened before the second shot even comes in.
So what you're saying is Unknown is the Wayne Gretzky of DBD?
Yeah, you're forced to take a lot of shots on the Unknown that you might not hit, because the survivor's pathing is really what it comes down to. And that's because of the timer that you're removing the weakened and how it works with your power score.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems almost like a little bit of the Nemesis syndrome, where yes, you have this chase power that's quite good, but the fact that you have to hit the survivor an extra time to be able to get value out of it is a little bit unfortunate sometimes. And, you know, I would be interested in seeing a fun statistic if someone has the absolute gall to just sit there and calculate the accuracy of Unknown players' UVX blasts.
And, interesting try there. He tried to bounce it under the pallet, but, not going to land. That is going to be the last generator that is kind of close to getting done, Cole. Still 0 hook stages here for Trick, and the survivors of Elysium, they're just doing so well keeping their distance and cleansing the weakened. Zeno is going to get hit there. I mean, we're gonna have an opportunity for a shot, but like I said, it's on a time limit. Zeno's gonna cleanse the weakened if you don't go for this shot soon.
You see what I see? Zeno's got a pallet. He's not gonna drop it, he's gonna die on it. Oh, well.
Nice shot there from Trick, but he's immediately going to slug, and there were 2 players from Elysium hovering for a save there. Zeno is definitely going to be picked up very quickly. Silhey is going to take an M1 and run away from that generator. He does eat a weakened. Follow-up shot could be coming in. Looks like not just yet from Trick.
Very bizarre turn of events here as Silhey gets chased off of his gen, and he immediately runs to the reset, and Trick does not commit. He's decided to just sit on these gens, and it means that Elysium survivors have been able to, once again, fully reset all of their health states, leaving a weakened state on Silhey and Pedro, but not anything to show for it because Trick is just unwilling to commit past these gens.
And that was a really nice shot there onto Silhe in the shack. That's what we were missing earlier, that long-range injure from the UVX. So nice job there for Trick. He's going to try to teleport down to the other side of the map, fight his second Pentimento totem maybe, and see if he can find Silhe maybe being reset. These two survivors are still weakened. This could be trouble for Elysium. He goes for the shot. Oh, but right at the last second, the weakened is cleansed. No, he got the survivor that was healthy with Silhe.
Silhe is just full sending it to this pallet. Like, he knows, hey, if I just die on this bus pallet, it's going to be so risky for the killer to try and down me. And he just, once again, not committing. Trying to find another survivor, but I really don't know. At what point do you have to just commit to a chase? Because they're all just going to start running directly to that bus now. And Xeno taking an M1 but not being weakened means he's not at risk of being 2-tacked, does avoid a follow-up UVX shot, and now that second Fundamental Totem is broken, so Trick completely out of perks in this game. We do have two survivors doubling a gen as Trick comes to them. Xeno being injured means he is a little bit vulnerable, but also note, Xeno has both Deja Vu and Resilience, so in this injured state, he is completing generators 15% faster, and he's got a bite.
And remember, Cole, that we're still at 0 hook stages. And I can't believe Elysium hadn't actually used that pallet yet, given how often they've been on this side of the map. Teleport is going to come in. Oh, actually, it's going to be Pedro accidentally sprint bursting into the UVX blast zone. Interesting play there from him. Is it going to result in an injury? It is. Nice shot there onto Pedro. And honestly, I cannot believe Trick has not kicked this pallet gym pallet. For the amount of time that he's spent at this tile, it had his Pentimento totem as well. And okay, so he is going to get the down onto Pedro. Good play there from him. Going to be an M1 onto Silhe. But remember that Christian, the entire time, has been working the generator over in the corner. Xeno now is going to take an M1. That's going to be two survivors injured and one on the ground for Elysium. Could be danger here. Okay, he's actually just going to pick up Pedro. But remember, the generator is being done in the distance. Actually, Christian... Okay, generator is going to get done. Cool. I was a little bit scared for a second there because Christian was seen running around in the killer's face. But Elysium is going to finish the generator and take the win in this game and the set.
And they do time an adrenaline play around that unhook. We saw a split second pause on actually popping the gen until the unhook came in for the adrenaline onto Christian, and I believe also Xeno has hope. So two of these survivors having some endgame perks ready to go will help them out a fair bit. Although Pedro is the one who's taking chase, and he will be downed once again. Although I will say, fortunately for Trick, from a mental perspective, you have successfully avoided 0Practice becoming 0 hook stages because you have to play killer in the game immediately after this, and if you are coming from a very, very rough match as the sole killer player for your team, it's going to be very difficult to get your head back in the game to try and win that tiebreaker set of Spirit.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say earlier before Elysium got all of those incredible saves and body blocks is that if you, as a survivor player, do not like playing against the unknown, if you think he's OP, if you can't counter him, simply watch the perspective of these Elysium survivors. Look at how they run this killer, the way that they path, the way that they flare out from objects when the UVX blast comes out, and apply that to your own game. It really is fun to be good in chase against the unknown. And we see the Elysium survivors just enjoying themselves in this game, going to even the score up at 1-1 going into this Spirit set.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is a little bit understated about dealing against unknown is there's a weird kind of muscle memory that you need in order to know exactly what's in front of you in terms of the tile, because you are constantly looking behind you to try and get the, the dispel, not the spell, but you're trying to stare the unknown down, but you can't look in front of you, so you have to sort of know implicitly what is the distance of everything in front of me so I can look this guy down. And that camera control is really a skill that's not required for a lot of killers.
Yeah, and the really funny thing about playing unknown for me is that you can actually tell mid-game which survivors just never look behind them. because they don't light up pink when you're in chase with them.
Really?
Yep. So the survivors that are removing the weakened with Unknown will highlight themselves in pink. And then the ones that aren't looking behind them will kind of be like a darker pink color just to show that they're weakened, but they're not currently removing it. So it's actually even more effective with Unknown that you can kind of guess mid-game while you're playing. You know, I think this survivor is kind of a run to yellow type of person because they don't look behind them and they're just not even trying to cleanse their weakened.
Wait, so does the unknown see that?
Yes, the Unknown can tell
Huh.
whether a weakened survivor is staring them down or not.
I gotta say, I was not expecting that because of the fact that it feels like there are killers who have a power like this, where they are sort of explicitly denied that kind of information about the survivor. So I was not expecting that. That is actually very interesting.
Yep, and there's actually also a specific sound effect that comes with it too. Um,
Yeah, when
but
it's completed, right?
no, only when the survivor is actually actively reducing the weakened meter.
Huh. So it's similar to like a ghost face being revealed.
It's not quite that distinct, but sort of.
That makes sense. I have
Okay.
not played a terrible amount of Unknown, as you can tell, but we are getting ready for a Spirit match. This will be the tiebreaker, so we will be keeping the same lobby. Tree Trick returning on the killer for his team. Of course, he always plays every killer for 0Practice. Same Survivor roster as well, so this is going to be a bit of a chance for payback for Tree Trick coming into the tiebreaker.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to see here if Tree Trick is able to do a mental reset from that Unknown set. And you know what? I put my faith in him. I think he's going to be able to do it. I think a lot of these teams that don't pick the Unknown, they don't go into that Unknown set expecting a win, if that makes sense, Cole.
Mhm. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is a little bit unlucky for 0Practice here, for those viewers, I think most viewers might not be aware of this. If you are in the DBDLeague server, you can actually see the register of all of the picks and bans that the teams have done. You can get some insight into what killers these teams like to play against, what they don't want to play, what they respect in other teams. And 0Practice is a team that has consistently been using almost all of their bans on S tier killers. And so when you are facing a team that has a killer pick that you know they're good at, that you don't want to play, if you are committed to banning things because you don't have someone who will play it, or you just really will not play against it, you get in a situation like this where Elysium has the leverage to pick that unknown because those bans are going towards S tiers. And I think that's also why Elysium was happy to get Spirit as a tiebreaker here, being the next closest thing as we are getting ready to load into game.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me, Cole, but I feel like we've seen less S tiers in general in Season 9.
Oh yeah, I think the S tier killers in general have had a really high ban rate, which has been interesting to me because I feel like, from my perspective, the new Hillbilly is one of the most obnoxious killers in the game. And I think teams have actually been quite happy to pick that particular killer in light of the rework, although his presence has kind of died down a little bit as the season has progressed. There are still a couple teams that just really, really enjoyed Nurse, but Blight and Spirit have been a little bit lower priority, especially Blight. And that was interesting to me because I couldn't tell if it was teams just not wanting to play Blight because of his return to Suffo Pit, which is a good map for him, or if the Blight players are just protesting the recent nerfs to that killer. But so, yeah, in previous events, Blight and Billy and Nurse, very common picks, but now I think Spirit is one of the more commonly seen S tiers that we have.
Yeah, and you mentioned Blight. I think the absence of Blight could also be because Behavior decided to give him low pro chains. That
Oh
might
yeah.
have something to do with it.
Oh yeah, he's not being seen at this exact moment in this week and in the past because of the bug. We have temporarily removed him from the pool. So yes, that is unfortunate if you are a Blight enjoyer. Hopefully that bug will be fixed and we will see more of Talbot in future games. But for now we are going to be sticking with Spirit. Trick pulling up with a very standard build. We've got Corrupt, Sloppy, Eruption, Agi. You know, maybe you could fit in Pop over Eruption if you're so inclined, but standard add-ons as well, Recharge and movement speed. The whiff coming in onto the first chase onto Pedro, although he does not quite have distance to make anything else. He should take a tag on this shack window. He will read it, but Trick knows he can't actually go for it, so Pallet will be dropped at the first chase. After that tag comes in, though, very unfortunately for Pedro.
Yeah, that's a good first hit for Trick. He's going to go for a short and safe phase there. Sees Pedro going off into the distance at this like bottom side of the map, and he wants to die on a pallet. I think that's the correct play here for Elysium. With such an early injury, you're not going to be able to stop the Spirit from getting it down. And if you can delay it in any way you can, that first hook, dying on the pallet is going to be the way to do it. And we do see a survivor is hovering. It is Zeno. He's going to get found out. Sprint burst, though, on the 110 killer. He is going to make it a little bit of a distance away, but he is eventually going to take a hit here. Can somebody pick Pedro up, though? Because if not, Zeno just gave a injure for free.
Yeah, we are seeing, you know, one of the adaptations that necessarily occurs in the macro for S-tier decision making on the survivor side. Because S-tier killers can consistently end chases so quickly, you have to make a decision. Is this first chase going to be happening super quick? And if it does, that informs that your teammates, okay, we need to stack on a gen to make sure it pops before that first hook. And also, we play to die on pallets so that someone can come save and not just dying in the corner. And somehow, Elysium survivors have popped 2 generators for this chase. I did not think they would have the pressure to do that, but they did.
Yeah, and you know how they got that pressure, Cole? It was because Pedro chose to die on a pallet instead of just going into the corner. The time that Zeno bought by angling for that save is what allowed those 2 generators to pop for Elysium. So very good coordinated teamwork from there. It doesn't even really matter that Zeno got found now as long as he gets reset.
Yeah, and the thing is, Zeno has the absolute perfect build for approaching for those pallet saves. He's got Sprint Burst, Fixated Vigil, and Calm Spirit. And that may seem like a weird choice, but he's essentially able to walk up to that pallet with Calm Spirit also, so that he doesn't disturb any crows, maybe edge map. So he's always in position there.
No 1-for-1 is going to come in there. It seems like Trick accidentally hit Pedro off of the hook. He's going to be going to this pallet gem now. The phase is not going to have enough range to reach the pallet. And Pedro, he's playing this pallet gem here. This is really dangerous, very mind gameable, but Trick misses the swing. Pedro now holding W away from the pallet gem. He's playing such a quiet character on this ace, but he is going to die on another pallet. So good choice there from Pedro. He only has 1 hook on him. So Elysium angling for this save once again. Very interesting play. They do have their other survivors working generators. Even if Zeno gets found here, this is buying so much time for Elysium. Phase coming in from Trick. Zeno sprint bursts away. He's got a filler. He's got Shack. Zeno's just being so annoying here on the Meg. Is he going to take a tag here?
The funny thing is, even though Zeno is the one scaring the Spirit, wait, did DS run out? Because Pedro had both DS and Smash Hit available. That would have been an absolute, that would have been way worse than the pallet save, but I guess either DS wore off or he missed it. I would assume it wore off because no one would ever miss a DS.
DS absolutely wore off there. He spent a lot of time down on that pallet. And Christian and Silhe are just cranking gens in the distance while Zeno is just this annoying mosquito in Trick's face on this Meg. He's going to be going for a phase here, drops the pallet on the correct side. Good mind game there from Zeno in the phase. They do need to get Pedro off of this hook though, because like you said, he has the DS. That's still a great resource for the survivors of Elysium to use. Although, even if Zeno didn't have DS, they're still in a great spot here with only 1 gen remaining and 4 survivors left.
Yeah, this can slip out of control so quickly. There's a 1-for-1 here, and Trick might, no, he will not go ahead and tunnel out Pedro. He will just get that hook in the basement while he can. We surely will have a reset coming in, and Pedro, however, having that medkit does not necessarily need to meet up with his team. Obviously, he wants to be sure that he's safe before he uses this because he needs that DS. He's got a pallet to die on, so with DS and Smash Hit, the Spirit either has to worry about him dying on the pallet, or if she just picks anyway, he has so much time he can buy, at least waiting for that DS timer, but Pedro has to be very careful to die on the pallet. He does successfully do it. This is going to be a pick. Moment of truth.
There goes the DS for Pedro, and he's going to get the smash hit as well. Nice speed boost there as the final gen is completed for Elysium. Xeno worked that gen injured, and Pedro, he's not going to make it very far. Very precise phase from Trick, and he's actually going to slug Pedro on the ground now. He wants people that have more hook stages on them, Cole.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Xeno would be ideal, but Xeno is on this exit gate. He very well might make it out. Silhei instead in his, not sights, I guess ears, as he does make this window vault, I think. No, and playing 110 Shack is rough.
Silhei has Dead Hard as well. If he doesn't trigger this lithe, he could go for a frame perfect Dead Hard on the face.
Yeah, I mean, also, Dead Hard Lithe is a very interesting choice. I don't think I've seen that too often. Lithe, in theory, would be able to get him way more distance, but...
He's not choosing to vault. He's going for the Dead Hard. He misses it too early. Silhei misses the Dead Hard. That is going to be a down for Trick, and he might just take this one. Yeah, that's going to be 2 extra hook stages on Silhei if he dies. And I think the survivors of Elysium are going to go for the save, Cole. They're all in the map, and they've all reset.
There is a gate right next by, so if that gate's already open, they should be able to pull some, but the gate has not been touched at all, so they can have a survivor pressure that gate and try to go for a 2 or 3 man save.
They need to have Pedro on that gate, because if Trick just phases over here and gets a hit onto a fresh hook, that's not going to be good for the survivors of Elysium. I mean, Xeno is just looking so attractive to Trick right now with this fresh hook. He does sprint burst away, but like I predicted, Trick is going to commit to Xeno. He gets the injure. Next phase could be trouble for Xeno, but it's going to be a for the people from the Death Hook survivor. Pedro with a nice for the people play. Very good teamwork from Elysium there. Silhei, though, gets unhooked on Death Hook, and he is just going to be looping on nothing in the corner. But the Dead Hard!
And now some body blocks can possibly come in. We got Xeno and Christian both healthy. And even if you do manage to get Silhei or Pedro here, it's still only 1 more stage, and this is also buying Xeno more time to get that last gate open. Pedro now the one taking chase. We got Christian hovering for a pallet save onto Silhei, and Trick is fighting for his life to get this last hook stage possible. The survivors he would want are the ones that are healthy. There's no time to get them. The gate is open. Silhei should be running out, and now with Pedro taking chase, the pallet is dropped, so no pallet save can come in for him. He does... Yeah, he will take the M1. This will be the death onto Pedro, almost certainly. And Trick is still worried, hey, there might be a beamer save around the corner. You never know. But the survivors, knowing the EGC will kill them if they don't leave, will be leaving, and this will be Pedro's death and the 5th hook stage for Trick. Very, very rough game.
Yeah, really good game for the survivors of Elysium once again. They played exactly the way they needed to. They used their builds efficiently, especially Pedro on the chase with the DS. He bought so much time for his team, and then at the end there, Silhei with the Dead Hard was just lights out for Elysium. That was a frame perfect Dead Hard, barely even saw the animation there. So, like you said, Cole, only 5 stages for Trick, a 1 kill, 5 stages result. Elysium gotta be feeling good going into this final killer set.
Absolutely, and anytime you know that your win condition as killer is just, well, stages in general, but especially if it's a low amount of stages, it gives you so much freedom in the macro decisions that you make throughout the game, right? You know, hey, I've got to get early down. I can afford to camp this guy. I can get those first 3 stages. I'm only going to need 3 more after. Why not? You know that you don't have to worry about playing refreshes later in the game. There's so much freedom that presumably Xeno is going to have going into this killer game. And likewise, it's going to condition the survivors of 0Practice to the fact that they must play greedy, but they're going to have to play for pallet saves as well. They simply cannot afford to play the game normally, so to speak, and just trade hooks for gens. It will not work for them in terms of time efficiency.
Yeah, and if 0Practice here, if they don't have a good first chase against Xeno, the trajectory of this game is just going to be downhill from there. Xeno is so good on these killers, and they need to do something. They need an incredible play at the start to get into his head and kind of get the ball rolling there, because they're starting at a deficit here, at a disadvantage. They're going to need something big here to throw Xeno off his game.
Yeah, but unfortunately, because of the fact that we have, these builds being submitted in advance, they're not going to be able to pull out some like crazy weird setup to catch him by surprise. This is going to be builds that they made based on a standard result for them, and I really don't think they were expecting to be playing to a 5-stage win con.
Yeah, and this might be unrelated, but it is about Xeno. What do you think about Cole? Last game, we usually see the same survivors in every Spirit set, right? We see Ada, we see Ace, usually Adam, maybe some Felix or Kate, but Xeno was playing Meg last game, whereas you would have thought that he would want to play Ada against the Spirit.
I don't really want to try and justify the Meg pick for a variety of reasons, which will not be named. But I'm going to throw out there, I am an enjoyer of playing Lori against Spirit. Even though she's not always the quietest survivor, her sounds are very inconsistent. And that actually does throw the Spirit off a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like David, I think, is that for the male survivors. He's actually quite loud, but there are some very confusing periods of silence in his audio when he's injured. So yeah, I can see what you mean with Laurie.
Okay, now let's reverse this mind game though. Do you remember, for the longest time, Spirits ran the perk Strider so often to try and counter Ironwell? And now
no, actually, I wasn't even playing the game when that was meta.
Oh, well, that's awkward. But okay, so yeah, so this used to be a thing, and now, ever since the changes, how those perks work, and especially the fall off of Iron Will being the fact that you can't use Exhaustion anymore, most notably, Spirit players never bring Strider anymore. And I believe if you ask them, why do you not run this perk? I mean, if your whole killer is based around hearing survivors, shouldn't you want to hear them louder? And the answer that I've always gotten is, the survivors being too loud or louder than expected actually throws off the Spirit. Because it's not just about hearing the survivor, it's being able to match what you're hearing to the exact position. So, theoretically, you could go the opposite approach and play the loudest survivor imaginable to make the killer think you're closer than you actually are.
That is a very interesting theory, Cole. But I think you'll be hard-pressed to find any of these teams that's willing to test it out for you in an official match.
Okay. I'll say it then. Xeno, if you're listening to this VOD, next time you play Spirit, for me, pick Bill. Just to see what happens.
Okay, yeah, that would be certainly a rare survivor sighting in the DBDLeague, the Billium. I've heard that some competitive teams will use playing Bill as a punishment for giving a first hit to an Oni at 5 gens. That's just how loud Bill is, that teams will actually use playing him as a punishment. So I guess if you're listening, behavior, we are still waiting for you to equalize the survivor injured noises.
Nah, Bill is a very powerful pick. I will hear no word to the contrary. But we are loading into the final, presumably, game of this match. It would be very unlikely to get a tie here. We would assume this should be a win for Elysium given the win condition, but crazier things have happened before.
Yep, so as the offerings start to roll in for the teams, Elysium, they do have quite an easy win condition here. It's going to be Xeno, a tried and true killer, one of the best in the world, playing the S tier on the Spirit, Wrecker's Yard. It's a recipe for disaster for the survivors. They're starting at a disadvantage here. They need to have an amazing first chase. I'm interested to see if they can actually come up with anything here, because the Spirit can be so oppressive. They're going to need an incredible chase, Cole, and interesting builds here, and I'm seeing some very interesting stuff from Xeno, and it gets even more interesting when you realize that he had to submit this beforehand.
Oh yeah, bro is definitely cooking. We've got Enduring, and I believe that's called Uchiwa. It's a green spirit add-on that regenerates your power when you are pallet stunned. So Xeno is going to just go full caveman, run through every pallet, get smacked, and then have his power back immediately. Now, if the survivors catch on to this, they will have the option to pre-drop pallets, but maybe that's not the play you want to take. But I would be curious to see how long it takes for them, one, to notice that he has this build. Because I would imagine, if you know Spirit add-ons and you notice Enduring, I would assume this add-on, right? Because the other add-on that she has affects pallets, the Iridescent one, is banned.
And that's 2 hits for Xeno there. Really not good that Kirzep gave that tag, and Xeno's actually going to go for more. He does get stunned by the pallet, and it refreshes his phase. It's not just a recharge, it's a full refresh. And Kirzep, was he ready for it? No, he wasn't. He takes the window instead. He can't actually take the pallet because the husk is blocking it. So Xeno's build already being shown off.
Well, now that the proverbial cat is out of the bag, we'll have to see if the survivors will make any adaptations to this. I'm fairly sure that Enduring does not help you when you get pallets saved, correct?
You know, I actually don't really run Enduring, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the stun animation of the survivor getting off your shoulder is a fixed amount of time, so Enduring will not help with that, but now that there's a basement hook and Ruin regressing these gens, and also keep in mind, Xeno made the choice to bring in Noed, so there will be a situation in the end game where even if we get there with fewer than those 5 hook stages, Xeno can very, very easily make that time back with the resources being down and with an exposed effect on all survivors.
Yeah, so Kirzep here, sitting in the basement, Xeno body blocking the door. He doesn't want to let Shizi in there to get that unhook. And, I mean, Xeno knows that this is the correct play because of the win condition. It's only 5 stages, so any stage that he can get just by body blocking here is going to be just that much more valuable for him. There's not much pressure on the map with the generators, and just expert body blocking here from Xeno, and Kirzep is going to go to 2nd stage. I mean, you've tried to do that before, Cole. That was some seriously good body blocking from Xeno to do it for that long. And Shizi is just going to go down to the next phase as well. This is just disaster for 0Practice. The only survivors standing are now injured. Kirzep has gone to 2nd stage. They're not going to be able to get this basement save without losing a lot more.
Yeah, like, I almost want to see that little clip there put into the next highlight compilation. It's not very flashy, but it is very technically impressive, as now Xeno is sitting on 2 injured survivors, 2 slug survivors, and only 1 gen popped. He's got some scratch marks over here by this pop gen. He's going to be finding a survivor there, and he wins that 50-50. There is now 3 slug survivors, only 1 survivor standing. It is that Ada with DS that's now going to go away. We got a pickup onto Goodcon and a pre-drop pallet already, as now these pickups are coming in, but still, injured survivors against Spirit, not a good time, and you will hear Ada clopping around. It is the one unfortunate downside of playing this character, just in general. If only she had some better footwear.
Yeah, and now Kirzep is going to be found. Or is he? Xeno, I'm not sure what he's opting to do. Maybe he saw Shizi there. And yeah, so he's going to get the pickup onto Sayora, who's going to go down at the same filler pallet. He now knows where a lot of these survivors are. Xeno, the master of slugging, is just not picking anybody up here. Kirzep is going to get reset in the distance, so maybe a little bit of a recovery here coming in for 0Practice. They do still only have 2 hook stages. Okay, so Kirzep now, Death Hook is going to get found. This is not really what you want from 0Practice. And, you know, Cole, I think Xeno would have got that launch. I don't think he needed to mind game that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, and the weird thing is, you've got Enduring, so you don't really need to respect the pallets either. But now we're back to, I think, Ada back at this shack. She's been here before. It did not work out the last time she was here. That was when we first had this build revealed. Now, if we got the live coming in, she will be playing this window. Working out so far because Spirit is a 110 killer. That's that classic check spot. We know this one. You stand right there. You can see all entrances to shack. Ada will be walking away, but she will take the tag for it.
Yeah, and I mean, it did result in a hit, but I just want to point out, you might be wondering why Kirzep was standing there. It's because he didn't want to move any of the grass to let the Spirit know where he was, but Xeno still was able to predict the location of that Ada. Pallet save not going to be coming in. Xeno calls Kirzep's bluff, and he's going to be dead at 4 generators remaining. That really was quite a chance for 0Practice to come back into this game if Kirzep was able to have a better chase, or maybe a pallet save or flashlight save could have come in. But that's going to be 3 stages and 1 death for Xeno. It's looking good for him meeting this win condition.
Oh yeah, and the grass moving is one of those subtleties of Spirit gameplay that you need to keep an eye out for that bit of the environment. And it works both ways. In the previous game you saw, when Xeno was working on an exit gate, he knew that the Spirit was coming to him because the Spirit, when she's in phase walk, will also not only move grass, but disturb birds. So if you have an open eye, you can sometimes tell exactly where she is mid-phase despite that.
So now Shizi going to be on the ground, and Xeno going to be phasing onto this variant pallet gym, or this variant jungle gym here. Misses the swing onto Good Khan, but he is injured, so these phases are going to be so much easier to land. It looks like, though, Good Khan just going to get M1'd. He's going to go down, and now the search is on for Sayora. He's going to pick up Shizi in the distance. Xeno, again, the king of slugging here. I don't think he's going to rest until all the survivors are on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really bad joke here about slugging and slugs and salt in the wound. I can't find the punchline. Maybe someone will, but, you know, really, really tragic when you spend half of the game just lying on the ground, getting acquainted with the floor, you know, the texture, the color, maybe even the taste of the grass. I won't judge.
Alright, so we still haven't kicked this filler pallet over by the broken truck. Xeno now going to phase onto Shizi. The window is pre-vaulted there, and Shizi is going to go down. Nice play there from Xeno. I mean, when these survivors are injured, it really is it's hard to mess up those phases. It is a little bit harder than it looks, though. Spirit can be difficult sometimes, especially when you're phasing onto a healthy survivor like he is right now with Sayora. Pathing coming out. Nice play there from Sayora. He doubles back away from the tile. It's going to keep him healthy for now. He now goes to the split bus. Where this is not the split bus. Is this the one with the good window, Cole? We can't quite see yet.
I believe it should be, yeah. No, it's not. He's got the window at the back of the bus. Very, very unlucky. Not quite the magic school bus we were hoping for, but yeah, and Spirit is a deceptively difficult killer to play. The power and execution is very simple in concept, but using that phase very precisely is where the difficulty comes in. And that's where you start to differentiate between really, really good Spirit players and those who are only okay. Your awareness of very subtle things in what you're seeing, what you're hearing. You know, obviously, we used to meme about Spirit's skill floor and ceiling just being buy a good pair of headphones. But it's a little bit more than that, especially now after, you know, the nerfs that brought her, well, some actual counterplay. But still, it is still a very good performance for Xeno to be able to land these phases so consistently, especially with these healthy survivors, yes.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I'm wanting Xeno to actually pick some survivors up and hook them, because, I mean, we got 3 generators remaining, we got 2 survivors standing, 1 on the ground. I mean, forcing them to come and unhook somebody here, surely that's not the end of the world, right, Xeno? I mean, I know that slugging is a good play here, but Xeno is just, he's very, okay, so here comes the enduring, and there's exactly what Xeno wanted. I think that's what he was playing for the whole time, Cole.
I mean, sometimes you play for clips. You know, you can't help it. The intrusive thoughts win, and, you know, at the same time, when you have a win condition that is this easy, there have been situations, especially since getting that first tunnel out, he's had 2 slugs on the ground. He could just pick each of them and hook them, and that brings him to a tie. I mean, actually, no, that would be a win, because in the previous game, it was 5 stages, 2 fresh.
Yeah, 5 stages, 2 fresh. And it feels like we've just been playing tag here for about 10 minutes now. But now, surely he finds Shizi now, and no more pickups are going to come through. Yes, okay, so Shizi is now zoned to this edge map tile. Xeno going to be going for the phase. This might be the final phase of the game. Xeno stops, gets Sheezy in the phase. Okay, so finally now, Xeno has slugged all 3 survivors at the same time. We really didn't need to do this given the 5-stage win condition, but I guess that's just his personal flair as a killer, Cole.
I mean, sometimes you have... I think it's not a bad practice to simply play the game to the best of your ability, and if Xeno thinks, yeah, I can 4K3 this, I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, going for that and putting up the best performance that you can, even when you're handed an easy win condition. You can be, like, cynical and say, yeah, well, just secure your win first and then play for Flare, but I don't think Xeno was ever worried about the situation he was put into. He just played the best Spirit game that he could, and that's how we got a 4K3.
Yeah, and the enduring with the green add-on was very interesting this game. I wonder if we'll see other spirits adopting that anytime soon. I mean, it worked a couple times in different ways as well, because you can use enduring to maybe get that 2-tap like we saw at the edge map filler, or you can use it the way he did it at the shack, get the total recharge of the phase, and use that to get a kind of extended 2-tap onto a survivor that thinks that they've made distance from you.
Yeah, and in that instance where we got the enduring 2-tap, one crucial component of that is the fact that when the Spirit comes out of phase, it's easier for her to be on the same side of the pallet as you when you drop it after that tag. That's the detail you need to happen for the 2-tap. It's much harder to achieve that with other killers because they would have to fully go through the pallet in sight of the survivor, and so you'd be banking on the survivor basically having a bad reaction time. But Spirit doesn't have that problem.
Yep, because she can just become a ghost, go through the pallet, and come out directly on the side that she needs for the enduring play. So really, I mean, Xeno just always cooking something on these builds. You can always trust him to come up with something good and unique. But I think that is going to be it for me on the desk today. Elysium is going to take the 2-1 win over 0Practice.